Even with the NBA Finals starting last night, the NBA rumor mill is hot as Jaylen Brown to the Rockets. Rumors have started popping up. Giannis to Boston. Jaylen Brown rerouted to Atlanta as well in another trade. We're going to talk about it all and more, and why Kawhi Leonard also could be the number 2 superstar on the market, according to Jake Fisher. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number 1 place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number 1 spot for everything basketball and NBA related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. We got a goal of getting to 10,000 subscribers by the start of the 26-27 season, which means we got about 4 months to get about 5,000 subscribers. We can only get that done with your help. About 62% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel that's been watching us since we made the switch to everyday content. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Even if we're in your algorithm, we pop up. Make sure you guys are subscribed. With that said, let's get into the topics for today. For those that don't know, here we talk about both sides of any topic that we bring on. We'll talk about side A, we'll talk about side B. It keeps the conversation interesting. It also keeps me engaged as a host. So with that said, the first topic that we're going to talk about is recent rumors that popped up that the Houston Rockets could be interested in Jaylen Brown. This is after, rumors popped up that the Pelicans could be interested in him, which we covered on yesterday's show if you guys want to go and hear that one. But this one comes from a number of sources. It actually isn't just one in regards to this one. Brett Siegel talked about it. There's other outlets that talked about it as well, and that's the Houston Rockets potentially putting it together an offer that's built around Reed Sheppard, Jabari Smith, Dorian Finney-Smith, and 3 first-round picks for Jaylen Brown. Now, is that a deal that makes sense? Should the Rockets make an all-in move and make that push to go win now? Clearly, the Rockets are win now, right? That's the side of it. Push the chips in because you're in win now mode. When you made the trade for Kevin Durant, it puts you in win now mode. Now, I do think that they should have waited a little bit, like maybe an additional year before making that all-in move, let the young players develop. But because they really didn't give up a whole lot for Kevin Durant, which they actually got a steal for what they got a player like Kevin Durant for, it made sense to go ahead and take that deal that was on the table. It is what it is. The Suns wanted to move him anyway. But in this case, if Jaylen Brown is available, right, and if he's available, pairing him with Kevin Durant would have kind of similar to what Boston has, right, having 2 elite forwards there. Even, Kevin Durant, there's some Houston Rockets fans like, oh, man, Kevin Durant was still very efficient. And it gives them another scorer, another two-way player there as well, a player that's been tested in the playoffs. One thing that the Houston Rockets really lacked, in their playoff run last year, if you can call it a run, was the fact that they didn't have guys. Jaylen Brown is so smart at attacking mismatches. He can defend people out on the perimeter. He would give Houston, I think, a legitimate championship ceiling that they thought they were going to have after trading for Kevin Durant. Now, the Houston Rockets could more so want to play it safe another year before making another move and losing more of their draft picks. Get Fred VanVleet. They may look to bring in another point guard. Help Reed Sheppard was better than I was giving him credit for coming into this, right? And so with giving up Reed Sheppard, Jabari, and Dorian Finney-Smith and 3 first-round picks in that proposal, that's a huge price tag for a team to pay. Now, Jaylen Brown is worth whatever price tag you can get him with, right? I think he showed that what he did last year in leading that Boston Celtics team for the majority of the season without them having Jason Tatum there. And they never really had depth at the front court. They figured it out. Got to give him credit for that. This guy's he's dealt with a lot, right? Between, having to share the spotlight with Jason Tatum, the depth of that team. He's a guy that's learned how to win. Absolutely. Now, the thing when it comes down to it is Dorian Finney-Smith has 3 years left on his contract, and he did not look good at all for that Houston Rockets team last season. So is this something that the Boston Celtics would want? Like, do you trust Dorian Finney-Smith? Jabari Smith Jr. would give them, some elite size at 23 years old. He has a $23 million contract. He has 5 years left on that contract, so they would have him locked in until he's 28, 29 years old, which is in the prime years of Jabari Smith's career. And I think Jabari Smith is also a player that has not yet scratched his complete ceiling yet, and so it makes some sense there, right? The other side of this is don't mortgage everything quite yet, right? You had a season last year where it was disappointing, but you lost your leader on the court in Fred VanVleet, on top of him being the only real point guard on the roster, and even then he's not like a traditional point guard. I get it that the Rockets are trying to build a contender, but I don't think you want to microwave one before KD's window's closed, because if you keep your young pieces and those guys do end up extending out and growing more, you can actually extend your window, right? Now, the question becomes about, especially in a deep Western Conference with Wemby and the OKC Thunder and the Spurs, would even Jaylen Brown on that Houston Rockets team make them a title favorite? Is that it? Or just make them another expensive second round team? That's what you have to ask there. And we'll see, right, what happens in regards to that one. But let me know what you guys think. The Houston Rockets reportedly being interested in Jaylen Brown. Do you think that acquiring Jaylen Brown for the pieces that they have would make them a championship contender? Or do you think it would just make them another expensive team that's going to get killed in the Western Conference? Be good, win a lot of games, but not really have a chance in the Western Conference. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, one of the trade rumors that are always going to pop up, there's always going to be new wrinkles to it, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, there's now rumors going around with a 3-team trade that would send Giannis to Boston, Jaylen Brown to Atlanta. And is that enough to get that done? I don't know, right? I always come to these things and I say, I love hearing from the fans of these teams, because I think you want to hear from those guys. But so the Atlanta Hawks will receive Jaylen Brown, makes sense for them. Boston will get Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Milwaukee Bucks will get Okongwu, Buddy Hield, Zachary Reshape, Corey Kispert, a first-round pick from the Celtics, 2 first-round picks from the Hawks. So you're getting a total of 3 first-round picks. You're getting former number 1 overall pick in Zachary Reshape, who maybe somebody can look at and say you can reclaim him. The Milwaukee Bucks, if you're trading Giannis Antetokounmpo, you might as well give a shot at a former number 1 overall pick and see if they can actually hit on that ceiling. You're going to have time to give them room to develop, give them the ball, let him do whatever he wants to. In this 3-team trade, the Hawks, who had a great season in 25-26, will try to add another piece and talent to their roster so they can make that next step forward as a franchise. And that's the question that you want to ask here. I think the reason why Boston has to consider this, at least if this is on the board, is that Giannis, one of the most dominant players in basketball. I still have my doubts about moving on from Jason Tatum for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'd kind of rather just keep Jason Tatum. But if Boston is theoretically interested in this deal, because you get Giannis, you pair him with Jason Tatum, you make it Jason Tatum seem clearly long-term with it, and you still have that solid two-way foundation that the Boston Celtics have built themselves on. You're going to need some more shooting and scoring and stuff like that. Jaylen Brown, though, I just think he's so valuable, right? Brown proved that he can carry a team, and that's what he proved. And I think that's something you don't want to just cash out on for Giannis Antetokounmpo at 31 years old. In my personal opinion, he's already playing less and less games as the years go on. Again, that's my personal opinion. Boston would be changing his identity, losing some spacing and some structure to their offense, right? As far as the Atlanta Hawks side of this, getting Jaylen Brown in Atlanta next to Jalen Johnson, I'm confused all. Next to Jalen Johnson would be absolutely huge. It would give them a real two-way identity with that team to pair with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You're keeping him in this move. So much of what Atlanta's identity would stay the same, and it would instantly raise their ceiling in an Eastern Conference for 100% sure, right? And then the Bucks side of this, the Milwaukee Bucks would be choosing to rebuild and reset, right? You get a player in Zachary Reshape, like I said, that you can see if he's going to end up turning in and hitting any of that ceiling that it looked like he had before he was drafted. You get 3 first-round picks unprotected in this as well. And I think that's the thing. You just have to remember, this sounds far-fetched, and it's a deal that I don't think would ever happen, but the NBA offseason gets crazy, and we always see at least one move in every NBA offseason that we just don't quite expect. Could that be this move, right? I don't know. I think there's a lot of smoke around Jaylen Brown's name right now. I do think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be moved this season, and the Atlanta Hawks will be, in the right place to be trying to find how to get to the next step. You moved off of Trae Young. You didn't get a whole lot back in that move. CJ McCollum gave you some solid minutes for sure, but now you're trying to make that next step as a team, and very often that next step becomes the most difficult to make, and they're trying to get ahead of that and do that now. So this is one of those things that I say, who says first? Who says no first on this one? I want to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. Who says no first? Boston, Milwaukee, or Atlanta in this proposed rumored 3-team trade? But with that said, let's move on to the next topic, and that is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is reportedly the number 2 star that could be moved in this offseason. This comes from Jake Fisher that says this. No updated word on Kawhi just yet, but behind Giannis, I do think that he is still without a doubt the number 2 player that we are expecting will be moved in trade conversations. Forget about could Jaylen Brown be discussed, could Chet, could Evan Mobley. Kawhi Leonard is going to be discussed in trade conversations this summer. He's going into the last year of his contract. The Clippers are in somewhat of a rebuild now, and there's too much of an opportunity for the Clippers to at least listen, and I believe they're going to. So that comes from Jake Fisher. Take that for what you will in regards to that one. So the question is right now is, should the Los Angeles Clippers listen to offers for Kawhi Leonard? The side of this that it says yes is you should always be listening to offers. That, like, as a base, listen to offers. Listening to offers does not mean you're shopping a player. It doesn't mean that you got to take the deal. You're just doing information gathering to see what's out there, right? But even if you are listening to offers with the intention to trade him, not just kind of gather information, Kawhi Leonard is in the later stage of his career. It is. The Clippers got younger by trading for, Darius Garland, getting Ben Mathurin in there. We'll see if they keep Ben Mathurin. And with the West being more and more dangerous as it is, the question you have to ask yourself if you're the Clippers is the runway here that we have, can we build a team that can get past OKC or the Spurs within the next 2 years? That's what you have to ask here. And if the answer that you find yourself being honest with yourself ends up being no, then you move on from Kawhi Leonard before his value drops even further. But the side of this that you may want to entertain keeping Kawhi is that a healthy Kawhi, and Kawhi when he's right, is still a championship level two-way player. It's just the reality of it. When Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he is a championship level two-way player, and it's going to be very rare you find another star like that. Very few players can walk into a playoff series and instantly change the way that you play basketball on both sides of the ball. Kawhi Leonard can do that, right? And so Kawhi comes to this in this offseason to me as the ultimate risk versus reward trade target. If he's healthy, he can win you a playoff series or maybe several playoff series. If he's not, it can completely wreck and throw off your timeline, and that's what teams are going to have to ask themselves that could be interested in Kawhi Leonard in this offseason. Is it worth it, the runway, or are you going to wreck your timeline? And we'll see. The next player that has speculation on if they could be moved this offseason comes down to Kyrie Irving, and if he could be moved. This also comes from Jake Fisher, who said this. Definitely Minnesota is in need of a major clear ball handler next to Anthony Edwards, and we're looking at guys to do that. They're bringing back Ayo Dosunmu this summer, and I think he's probably the biggest addition we can expect from Minnesota at this juncture. But I don't necessarily believe that Kawhi will be on the Mavericks roster come opening night. There will be contending teams that make trade calls for Dallas. So with this, right, Kawhi Leonard and Jake Fisher here is basically predicting that the Dallas Mavericks are going to trade not Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, that they're going to trade Kyrie Irving, and that makes sense, right? Like, here's the question, right, that you're going to ask yourself. Are the Mavericks truly committed to seeing Kyrie Irving with Cooper Flagg, or could they pivot? And I think that comes down to what they get in this draft. I think the way that they go and how they feel about the guard that they can get in this draft really makes sense. Does Keaton Wagler fall to them? Do they take Braden Burries? Is it a Kingston Flemings? Do they feel confident in going that one? The side of this that says keep Kyrie is this. Kyrie is one of the most skilled players in the NBA. He has one of the most skilled bags in the NBA, period. And if Dallas wants to maximize Cooper Flagg's development early, playing with a player like Kyrie Irving can absolutely help that. He's an elite shot creator. He's a veteran guard. He's a leader. He makes some sense there. But at the same thing I said with Kawhi is that you want to move him while the value is still high. You don't want to wait till there's no value. If Kyrie gets another injury, there's not going to be that value there. You're going to lose that out. It's going to be gone, right? And so his injury history, the timeline, it doesn't line up really with Dallas if they can extend that and get a young guard that you build and develop Cooper Flagg with intentionally. And so if people call with real offers for Kyrie Irving, you got to listen to them because the Dallas Mavericks have to think long term here. It really comes down to what Masai Ujiri really wants to do in this one, right? I think that Dallas right now is saying all the right things publicly because they should. But if people start calling, the front office has to listen to those offers. And if you get an offer that you can't pass up, you take it, right? If Kyrie Irving is part of the Mavs next era, there's some positives there. But I'd also think this, he could be a trade chip that actually helps build your next era a little bit more. And I think that's what you have to look at also. But that's going to do it for today, y'all. Let me know your thoughts down below on all the topics in regards to this. Kyrie being moved, Kawhi being moved, Jason Tatum being moved. Like, what do you think is going to happen in regards to this offseason? Outside of the Giannis trade, what is the most surprising star name that you think could be moved realistically this summer? Let me know what you guys think down below on that. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.